आप्यायन्तु मम गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्याम् मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ते मयि सन्तु। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। It is said that that which the mind cannot feel or know, but that because of which the mind can feel, know that you know that to be Brahman, or know that Brahman to be you, not that which you worship in this world here. These are indicators with reference to the equipments that we think are me. Note these words down. This is reference to the equipment that we think are me. The student presumes that there is something that is vitalizing these senses and want to know surely what that is. Am I this mind which seems to be the knower? But mind is not independent in knowing. Then who is the knower? So here the teacher indicates clearly that the mind cannot know it, but because of whom even the mind is known, recognized. Know that to be Brahman, not what you idealize. Idealize means that which you conceptualize as Brahman, that you worship, etc. Now this principle of worship, what is it? As such, our mind, here the scriptures clearly say that it cannot be thought of by the mind. So what does it mean? Everything we know is with this mind. Can you say just stop your mind? Try stopping it. Try stopping your mind. You cannot stop your mind, can you? You cannot stop your mind by just saying stop. Does it stop? So this mind which is constantly thinking, which is a constant flow of thoughts, this mind just cannot be stopped. When you say that which the mind cannot think of, the mind will still try to think of Brahman. No? So this thinking of Brahman also cannot stopped by the student. So when you say that it cannot be thought of, the mind says, then what am I going to think about? There's nothing to hold, nothing to think about, nothing to focus. So this principle of upasana, and as we said, we go step by step. A spiritual student's journey starts by first shifting the attention from the world to himself. And in the grossest way, how does it start? At this moment, we blame the world for our sorrow. We blame the people for our sorrow. We blame others for mismanaging the country, mismanaging the economy, mismanaging the ashram also. No? See, everything, no? In your family, everybody is wrong. But your spiritual journey really begins when, like Kabir Das ji, you recognize, बुरा जो देखन मैं चला, बुरा न मिलिया कोई, जो मन खोजा आपना, मुझसे बुरा न कोई. That all the time, really see, if you watch, how this ego plays in us. By always shifting the blame, call it ego, call it mind, by shifting the blame to someone else. And therefore, we give others the blame for our sorrow. At the same time, because of that, we start depending on others for our happiness also. So when it is said in the beginning levels of the scriptures, especially when you study the Bhagavad Gita, that one who is unaffected by joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, always come back to the, if you can't realize the truth, come back to the fundamentals. No? Because we depend on the world for our happiness, we blame the world for our sorrow. But when we start inquiring why there is attachment or why there is sorrow, and shift our attention to ourselves, we realize it is because of our likes and dislikes, our hopes and expectations, our desires and attachments. Then you start investigating into what you need to adjust within you to make your life, which at the moment we want to make our life beautiful, we want to make our life happy, we want to make our life peaceful. That's why I said first start with introspection. Even in Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna calls as Jnanam in the 13th chapter of the Gita, in those various qualities are pointed out, amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, kshantirarjavam. No? I'm not going to go into all these qualities, but Krishna says that these qualities are essential for knowledge. Without it, knowledge becomes difficult. It is not possible. So these are the preparation. Then he says that Acharya Upasanam means service of your guru, teacher, Acharya. And then goes to say, gaining the knowledge and abiding in the knowledge. But he calls all this as Jnanam. And in that one beautiful thing he says, where he says, remaining in solitude. Even in Kaivalya-Upanishad, Vivikta Desha, in solitude, spend your time in quietude. Even when we come for a spiritual camp, we still, if not discussing with others, how your children are, how is family, how is this thing, how is business, what do you think is going to happen of the pandemic? Yeah. Oh, so nice that we can now meet, but you sure everybody has tested themselves? It is still talking about recipes, business contacts. See, this is how it happens. Today, even in the toilet, you're not alone because your WhatsApp is on. Yeah? I guess most of those messages are worth reading there only, We don't spend time with ourselves. How will we know ourselves? So to spend time alone. One beautiful incident that Gurudev tells us. And obviously it's a real story. When Puja Gurudev was with Param Gurudev, Swami Taponji Maharaj, what we hear is a picture that he only had that one small hint of a smile on his face continuously, if you see. Not like, not a WhatsApp smile. And nor was he frowning that people think that he was such a strict teacher, that he was frowning all the time. People give that impression about Gurudev also. He was laughing most of the time. Now and then when you did something egotistically, then his frown would come. You complained about something, then it would come. But otherwise, most of the time, just loving, compassionate, overfeeding, over-pampering, really speaking. So Taponji Maharaj, that way, he used to only talk about Brahman. There's no topic here, there, etc. And as you say, whose emotions did not fluctuate. Now sad, now cheerful, now happy, moods of changing moods. No. Gurudev always saw him just that serene, quiet, in our sense, serious person. This is the only time he saw kind of a hint of, a certain amount of excitement that somebody was coming from Lucknow. Like that, though, even Raja and Ranis of those time used to come and meet him. And that time, they were Raja and Ranis, even though under the British rule, but they would come to meet him. Neither did he frown to the Raja Rani. Nor did he But this man, he could see that hint of excitement that he's coming. Somebody should go and pick him up from the station or the bus. Bus only used to go to Uttarkashi, see that he's there, his name, his this. So Gurudev was a little bit wondering, who's this special man? Who's this devotee that this man of complete detachment seems to be so fond of, so anxious about, and that anxious must be so little, but make sure he comes, we bring him here, bring him straight here, all that, So when that man came, he was a little elderly man, not very, very old, but elderly man, must be in his mid-60s. Beautiful white kurta, simple white kurta, white dhoti. Didn't look like a Raja, Maharaja or something. Came there, did Sashtang Namaskar to Param Gurudev, with lot of devotion, brought some offerings, and sat there with him. So Gurudev was curious to see that, who is this person? Try to find out what is so special about this person. But meanwhile, like a typical grandfather, he told Gurudev that, Param Gurudev, that, my grandson, and every grandfather thinks with this next generation, the world is going to come to an end. So don't think your grandfathers think like that. Everybody's grandfathers fond of their own grandchildren. But he said, look at him. He's completely, goes to college, doesn't go in time, doesn't study. Indians means study, doesn't study properly, hardly goes to college, and then of course all Western clothes. That time wearing Western clothes was a big deal, Yeah. All this is telling him that, they're going away from their culture, they don't have any respect. Don't think it's happening now. This is 1940s. Gurudev also had gone like that only. So he mentioned that, I have brought him with me because he will not say no to me, but he's not ready to come inside because, with his tight pants, and those time drain pipes, they used to call it. Yeah? Some of you might be familiar with it. He won't sit down. Maharajji said, bring him inside. Bring him. Tell him, I've called. He said, he's not coming in because he's not even removing his shoes. Anyway, that time it was just one kutia. Outside was only, just bring him. So Gurudev was watching him and then saw, now Swami Shivananda had a lot of patience even with Gurudeva. But by the time he went to Maharajji, it was completely different. He was already so sincere student, and there was no sincere student, like him. Even today the Himalayas speak about this Guru-Shishya relationship. So he was curious to watch. And he thought that, my serious Guru only speaks Brahman, Atma, nothing else. How will we deal with this youngster? Means if I came here directly, how would he deal with me? No? And he came and Gurudev saw him. And what did Taponji Maharaj do? He said, Aao beta, and as usual, grandfather, matha teko. Yeah. And he also did, dadderiki, kind of. Bailagu. Now, he was seeing everybody sitting on the ground, and this much small is the parapet there. If you go to Uttar Kashi, and Maharajji is sitting on this kind of a parapet, and everybody is just sitting here. Now, this guy with his tight pants would be quite embarrassing if he sat cross-legged, because it would go krrrr, So, he can't sit there. And Maharajji made him sit on the parapet, not parapet or whatever you call it, the stage, like that. So, come, sit there. So, he also felt very nice, everybody else is sitting down and I'm sitting in front of, so he sat there. He had an attitude. Youngsters in every generation have attitude, mind you. Yeah? So, he had an attitude. So, Gurudev was curious, now what is my Guru going to do to him? And Maharajji speaks nothing but the scriptures and nothing more. Normally, Indians first thing they'll ask, what do you do? Or what are you studying? He said, Beta, college mein jate ho? So he nodded his head. And he said, in college nowadays, do they teach anything? Do they teach anything? He said, nothing much. Then, do you like going to college? He said, no. Do you go to college? Sometimes. Most of the times, where do you go? Now, whatever it is, as much as attitude teenagers may have, but our culture, in front of Mahatmas, we will never tell a lie. Yeah? Even if it's the most deepest, darkest thing, somehow or the other we feel comfortable not to tell a lie. So, he said, now grandfather is sitting there. Grandfather knows anyway, but before the grandfather could open his mouth, he said, कभी कभी पिक्चर पे चले जाते हैं, पिक्चर में movies. तो पिक्चर पे जाते हो? Said, हाँ. Who is now the latest hero, heroine? So he mentioned, he said, nowadays these heroines wear any clothes properly or no? I don't think that those heroines, you think that, your heroines hardly wear anything. Those heroines also, so like that, Tapuji Maharaj is asking, he was like, Gurudev is like, what's this going on? Do these heroines, what do they wear nowadays, Do they wear much clothing or not? This guy is a little bit embarrassed and he says, yeah, When they're having these kind of conversation about movies and all that. And Gurudev says, this kind of conversation, like sometimes you wish you just sit there and not go on, just chit chat, tell about your past. Like that people just want to know that. And here, Gurudev for the first time is seeing, like, Tapunji Maharaj knows that there's something called movies. Then after such conversation, something, Gurudev was busy probably bringing water or something like that. And then they went, but now before going, he bowed down on his own and he left. At least that much change you could see in him. After 3 months, again this elderly man came, and this time with a larger basket of fruits, and came and did Sashtang Namaskar and said, Maharaj, what a miracle you have done. You've saved my grandson. Gurudev was curious. I have been here for 2 years. This boy sat here for 20 minutes. If my Gurudev can do such a miracle, such a transformation, why is he not doing it for me? But he dare not go and ask that to. He could not go and ask to Maharaji. What you get to hear, you don't know, right? So, but when Gurudev had to go to Lucknow, he found out where this man was, went there, and what does he see? This boy wearing sherwani kurta, Indian kind of kurta clothes and all that. No longer fancy hairdo, very respectful. Met Gurudev also very respectfully. And he was young. Gurudev was also very young only. He was also young. So Gurudev said, come with me. Let's go for a walk. So he joined, and in the walk, Gurudev asked him, I saw you come in, see such a change in you. What happened? I mean, what secret mantra did my Guru give you that he's not giving me? So he said, really think it was just a meeting. I just felt comfortable. I just felt nice. I came from there and saying, yeah, he's cool. He's nice. But while I was leaving, he just told me, Beta, will you listen to something I tell you? I just listened to him, not take it seriously, but he said that every morning, if you get up before sunrise and you go for a 20 minutes walk, sit there for 20 minutes wherever you go, to a garden, a nice nature place, and walk back. If you want, even after that, come and rest before you go to college. He said, first few days I didn't even do it, but then one day those words kept on ringing in my mind, and I thought he was so nice to me, and he just told me to do something so simple. Why not I do it? And he said, I forgot my childhood days when I used to go early in the morning, be thrilled by the sunrise. But I put the alarm. I reluctantly woke up. And when I reluctantly woke up, but when I went out, the fresh air, the coolness in the breeze, the chirping of the birds, the beauty of the sunrise. I went to that garden where I used to go and play as a child. I went and sat there. It was so beautiful that every day I felt like doing it. And all he said that it will be good for your health, it will be good for your mind. I didn't know anything better than that. I said I did that for a week. I did it for 2 weeks. But after 2 weeks, it's the same sunrise, the same birds. Finally it was the same thing. But I didn't realize while sitting alone there, in solitude, I could not help but observe my mind and think, what have I been doing with my life? I just followed that one instruction of Maharaji. He says, that all I did was to get up in the morning, go to the garden, sit there for 20 minutes and walk back. So that your attention turns away from the world outside to your self. But start with introspection. Daily observe that day, otherwise lifetime will pass away and afterwards you have only regrets. फिर क्या पछताना जब चिड़िया चुग गई खेत. Why regret? When you didn't do the thing at the right time, didn't harvest the field at the right time, and that chance, that opportunity went away. The birds came and ate the grains. The wind blew away all the grains today. See, this is very important in sadhana. Otherwise, okay, one Upanishad over, another Upanishad over, 20 camps attended, listen to 20 Swamis, brahmacharis of the mission. But did we spend time with ourselves? For even to have the question, ke neshitam patati preshitam manu. Only first we'll be only seeing, all the drawbacks or the faults or the mistakes that we have done. Slowly, slowly you will understand. Your mind better. That time also you're understanding only your, your character, etc., your behavior. These are still very gross. But when you start observing the mind, by merely observing the mind, you find out what is the cause of your sorrow. And I'll tell you, the moment the mind recognizes, normally we blame. It is not like that. No longer I want to spend time with this person. Should I always, do any duties towards my relatives? Why do we say that? Because we see them as a cause of our sorrow, is it not? Shouldn't we just keep away from such people who disturb us? Don't we say that? But when we recognize those thoughts, those memories, those tendencies of our minds, that causes sorrow to us. That mind which naturally is picking up thoughts and dropping thoughts, picking up relationships and dropping relationships, jumping from here to there, has the capacity to drop your own negative thoughts. Become aware of it. Recognize it. This starts with introspection. Otherwise, do as much puja. I say all puja is to quieten your mind so that you become self-reflective. But we are so involved with all the paraphernalia of the ritual and completing it quickly, Kayena vacha manasendriya prakriti svabha karmi kaitur narayana iti samarpayami. Samarpan kar diya jaldi se, It's like finishing it off, When you start introspection like this, you're already observing your mind. Obviously, it is your intellect that is observing your mind. So many things can get so easily corrected, adjusted, fine-tuned by only this daily introspection. See the change that can come in your life. The moment you start doing this, the moment you start not being affected by change, how much your mind will become calm? The world is constantly changing. Your mind is also constantly changing. But if you get affected by the changes of the world, can you imagine the turmoil that your mind is going through? That's why you see the starting of the Bhagavad Gita again and again, whether Sthita Pragya Lakshana, whether it is preparation, whether it is Karma Yoga, the result of Karma Yoga, when it says detachment, detachment from what? From the pairs of opposites which are constantly changing. Therefore, when we used to come here for the camp, it is not that Gurudev did not give the best of whatever was available. Where was so much money? This ashram was built, I remember. Our camp fee was only 100 rupees for 10 days. Of course, currency was there, but even that day, that time 100 rupees was nothing. It was our pocket money. Even that is 7 years before. And we used to complain that with that we can't even get our one lunch, Here 3 meals were provided. So that it would be affordable to everybody, he kept that. But the trustees would come, Swamiji, so much losses. The best he could provide from that food, accommodation, he provided. But as a spiritual sadhak, what he said was, he says, I know, it is not that when we were sitting with it, he would even tease, and many times he teased me also, why you leave all that Hong Kong and come here, and live in this. But what living in whatever outside condition, being in his presence, listening to this knowledge was bliss. What else does matter whether we ate bangan and potato in the lunch and potato and bangan for dinner? That's all that you got. Of course, dal was constant, Brahman. And it is not that at that age also, we didn't get the bloating that you are getting at this age by eating dal. At that time, the oil also, canola oil was not available, It was sarson ka tel. But he used to say, do not complain about anything. Though if he found out also if something was not made, he would do everything. But don't complain about anything. The moment you stop complaining about things, it did not matter what you are eating, where you are sleeping. No. We were 7 in the room. If you had to go to the bathroom, you had to walk whichever. The first person had to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning because we had to get to class at 5:30 and you couldn't be late for class. All this. No? But if you are not affected by the outside conditions, because did we come to a 5-star hotel or something like that? Even now, when people are booking for Hanuman Mastabhishek, that much place is only there, that much only rooms with attached toilets are there. Pretty much every camp that I attended, I've attended many camps, I used to go to the servant bathroom and have the bath because I would never be able to get our own room bathroom, you know. If we are affected by the outside conditions, not that we have to make our conditions bad, sannyasi, you know. That is not. But whatever good or bad may be the situation, it should not affect me and deter me from gaining this knowledge. Now, when these things are told to us, we think that, oh, why should I go through this suffering? Why should I do that? You know, how can I do that? All these things come to our mind. But don't we have to do that in the family? And if we are not able to resolve it in this atmosphere, whether you go to the most luxurious place, there also you can find faults. And don't you all do that? The very same people who find faults here, they go to a 7-star hotel. There also, they charge so much. They could. Does it happen or not? Mind you, in the slums there can be laughter. In the palaces also there can be laughter. Don't think the palaces are miserable. But in whatever condition, if you're not affected by the external condition, the benefit is your mind is not fluctuating. Your mind ceases to be extroverted. It is not said that only bear sorrow or only bear pain or only bear difficulties, whether pleasure or pain. Don't be attached, don't be affected. Don't want either. Don't desire pleasure. Sometimes people say, no, oh, I better desire sorrow. No? Don't be like Kunti. She's an exception. And she knows why also sorrow. Because Krishna comes. We don't have to be miserable to get Krishna in your life. See, these are very important aspects. If we don't take care of them, then to think that I can sit in meditation, it is not easy. Not even easy to understand these words because we are not used to observing our mind. We are just told mind is a continuous flow of thoughts. We repeat it. It is not just knowing that it's a flow of thought. We have to observe it's a flow of thought. And if we have made it our direct knowledge, then we know that nothing is permanent. Not even our emotions are permanent. Then why sit and dwell on them? This I'm just saying the processes that our mind go through. Details are plenty. Benefits are tremendous. Other than just sitting there, oh, I'm going to observe my mind, my mind runs everywhere. That is observing the mind. Let it run anywhere. Therefore, in this world, everybody wants to go and do meditation, but not the preliminary sadhanas. Read the 6th chapter of the Gita. Read Kaivalya Upanishad. Where for meditation, no external situations or conditions should be affecting you. Then only you can meditate. Otherwise, even if you be sitting in a cave, your mind will be all over your past, your future, insecurities. And how ridiculous it is. Even when you have everything, you fear of not having it. No? Observe all this. But in observing the mind, first you will observe this, you will correct this you have to drop, that you have to take, this you discover, that you reject. But the most wonderful thing is, what the scriptures say is, Yat manasana manute yenahur mano matam tadeva brahmatvam viddhi nedam yadidam upasate. You discover that I am the seer of the mind. I am not the mind. For such a sadhaka to recognize that the mind is seen as an object, every thought of it is recognized by me. Not that I have to sit and recognize. First, that feeling is there, because the doership is there. That identification with the mind and intellect is there. So all sadhanas that are there, given in our Vedas, it is the same principle followed in every religion, only the outside decoration is different. Starting with that. So for a Vedantic student, Shravan, Manan, Nididhyasana. But our mind requires, for its inspiration, for its readiness to even intellectually understand this knowledge, which is a step. You have to intellectually understand this knowledge, but not remain in just the intellectual knowledge, because the intellectual knowledge is giving a direction to your thought. So knowledge is in the intellect only, but it is indicating something. That's the nature of this knowledge. Therefore, all Vedantic sadhanas which are there are so systematic. And therefore, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, one who is not affected by the pairs of opposite, amritatvaya kalpate, becomes fit for immortality. Fit for immortality. Doesn't become immortal yet. So each is a step. Then, when we are loaded with vasanas, means loaded with likes, dislikes and desires, karma yoga as a means is pointed out. And what really is karma yoga? Not working too much? Not working too less either. This is Vedantic language. Because if you say this thing, not doing too much work is, karma yoga. Or doing a lot of work. Arey Baba, there is another way of thinking, which is beyond less and more, because you don't measure it, whether more or less. What is required you do, but as a dedication to the Lord. Whether it is offering in a yajna kunda and sharing whatever everybody has produced as a cooperative endeavor, or making every action, whether it's your profession, that besides what I get, how am I an essential part of the society? And therefore, my contribution also is important. When we live like that, automatically a lot of our likes, dislikes, and our selfish desires that agitate our mind, that produce more vasanas, start getting reduced. Then we begin to start seeing the rhythm in the cosmos. We start seeing the beauty in others. Because of our likes and dislikes, our attention is only to find faults. But even in the worst person, there is something good. Even as a leader, even as, a corporate CEO, you don't just fire people because you don't like them. You find out what talents they have. And you can see it when you don't have your own prejudice of likes and dislikes. See? Therefore, that is called as karma yoga. Not doing a favor on society, but where your likes and dislikes. That's why all our rituals that are there, such as puja, yajna, at the end result of it, you get is prasad. And that prasad is prasanna mana. That sweet is just a symbol of it. And even what you get, whether you go to a gurdwara and you eat that same kali dal every Sunday, with the rotis made not always by experts. Many times I have gone and made it, and it was very patriotic map of India. And there were certain, states which had got chunks. And many times when I used to go and serve also, I could distinctly recognize my roti. And that 6-footer who's sitting there, I give him, and he eats it. Vaheguru, Vaheguru, Vah, 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 Vah. And I say, whoa. Like that roti, if he got in a restaurant or in a dhaba, it would be on the face of that waiter, is it not? That attitude in life of acceptance is prasad. That result, if we do not get from our archanas, pujas, yajnas, then we have not done that puja properly. Performance of our duties that is taught to us in the Ramayana. If doing it, we still complain, what did I get out of it? Which means we have not done our duties the way the scriptures have pointed out. Because the result of performing your duty is what? What is yoga karmasu kaushalam? What is that dexterity in action? That you attain samatva, equanimity of mind. Thus through karma. But this karma, to do your duty so dedicatedly, to serve the world with gratitude, to continue bearing whatever results come, you have to have an ideal of dedication. Whether it's an example in your family, your grandparents you may admire, whether some great hero, even in the politics of the world, whether it's Lokmanya Tilak, Mahatma Gandhi, for children, Superman, Batman, yeah. When we were children, Hanuman, some hero, some ideal, because the mind is, we call it monkey mind, no? Yeah. So principle of upasana, the principle of adoring, worshipping an ideal or a hero or someone who has all the virtues that we require in our life, whether to live our life dynamically or to gain knowledge and be meditative. And the highest being, Ishvara, whose love is this entire cosmos, whose efficiency is this entire cosmos, whose mighty power, even the wind and the sun, remain in the law. Bhishasmat vata pavate bhisho deti surya. Then tum rachak kahu ko darna. I'm saying, what all, when you do that worship, what all happens to your mind? You tell them, you should be fearless, you should have no worries. Try it. The more you try to remove your worries, what happens? The more you get worried about not worrying. But the moment you know that somebody is there to look after you, you don't even worry about it. This is why we worship God, the Supreme, in this manifested power, manifested wisdom, manifested compassion giving. This is called as Saguna Upasana. Upasana means taking your mind close to your ideal. If that doesn't happen, then you may have done elaborate rituals, you would have done enough of japa. But did you take your mind to adore that ideal? All puja, bowing down, hymns of adoration are for your mind. And multiple principles take place. One is that as you think or what you keep on thinking, you become. You keep looking at the faults of others, those faults you will find in yourself also. Be inspired by someone's goodness. Your mind will want to follow it. This is the principle of upasana, upa-asana. Sit close to your ideal. Adore, worship, bring to your mind. At the same time, the mind can understand that which is supreme, but not supreme most. It can understand vast knowledge. No? Even though it can't comprehend vast knowledge, but when you say knowledge, all-knowing, I know little, but all-knowing must be so great. But neither knows nor does not know. What is that? So when I keep my mind to all-knowing, all love, all compassion, all giving. All this giving, compassion, I can understand in small degrees. But when you say all giving, all love, your mind feels, yes, I can probably, comprehend it. It's got a focal point. But just like the salt doll that goes to fathom the vastness of the ocean, standing there it cannot see, but when it goes into the water, that now I want to feel it, I want to know it, I want to experience it. The salt doll only dissolves to become the ocean. So such an upasaka, when it comes to that point where the vastness is so great that the mind, trying to fathom the limits, becomes limitless. When you say all pervading space, we have a concept. But when you try to see the limits of space, you can't find it. So, upasana on space, upasana on the sun, these were the Vedic ideals. But when we are worshipping an ideal, we want to see that ideal in that form. We want to see that quality in its full measure. Therefore, the teacher says, know the distinction between means and goal. That even that which you are worshipping, with your mind, you can only worship a form. However great, brilliant, and magnitude of that form is, that form is limited, not the essence. Therefore, tadeva brahmatvam vidhi. Know that to be infinite, not that which you worship with your mind, that which you comprehend with your mind. That's the meaning, not give up upasana. But even upasana has to grow into your meditation, where you transcend your mind and therefore transcend even the ideal which is there in your mind, which brought you to this level. If the car brought you up till this door, finally you have to walk into. So if you keep on doing japa, 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 and not lead your mind to silence for which that japa was meant to be. You say Ram, 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 but don't discover who that Ram is. That upasana, it is not saying give up the upasana. That upasana must lead you to this direct knowledge. Means through listening to the Guru, through and abiding in it. Now you understand. Otherwise there are people, now that you're doing meditation, all this puja, idols, break time, this, that. It is a means to purify, make the mind single-pointed, and expand the scope of your mind. All this, not just concentration. Expand the scope of your mind. But yet, as much as you expand your mind, it is limited. If this you have understood, then those terms that are coming up tomorrow, deva, etc., become easy to understand. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.